Badlands National Park, the Devil's Tower, the Black Hills, Mount Rushmore, plus a few other stops all in one weekend. That's coming up in today's video. Let's get started. We arrived in Denver, Colorado on Friday evening and drove to Alliance, Nebraska. This made for a short 3-hour drive through the plains of Nebraska to the Badlands National Park. If you have never been up this way before, the plains are astonishing. You would think you could see forever in all directions. One problem we had while making this trip that may be fixed by now as I edit this video is that all three of the big navigation apps on our phone tried to route us 40 miles on a dirt road through the Native American reservation. The road to be aware of is Allen Road. If this road shows up in your directions, find an alternative route. Our last stop before we entered the Badlands was at the ranch store of the Badlands to see the Prairie Dogs. These guys are really cute, but you don't want to try to pet them. They can carry the plague. Badlands National Park is located in southwestern South Dakota. It is an amazing otherworldly experience, and as you begin to explore its buttes, you'll find that they are a remarkable sound absorber. And that view, what a beaut. Exploring the park is easy through the Scenic Loop Road. Make sure to get out of the car frequently, as each overlook offers a unique and wondrous view of the park. Also, as you follow the Scenic Loop Road, be on the lookout for wildlife such as bison, bighorn sheep, and of course prairie dogs. But of course, the best way to experience the Badlands is on a hike. As we had a lot of destinations planned in this 3-day weekend, we chose the Notch Trail to explore, which is a 1.5-mile out and back trail. But though it is short, it is not lacking in adventure. One thing to consider when you're out on these trails is there's not a lot of shade. Make sure you have plenty of water and sunscreen. The Notch Trail is an easy to moderate hike with most of the altitude gain on the latter. Make sure you are comfortable with walking near ledges with a 20 to 30 foot drop. There is also some rock scrambling and loose terrain, so be prepared and wear appropriate footwear with good traction. The Notch Trail is not without a payoff either. What you find is a great look at the landscape stretching out before you through, well, a notch. Our next destination was Wall Drug. And don't worry if you think you can't find it. There are billboards everywhere. And I mean everywhere. What began as a pharmacy in 1931 has transformed into a sprawling complex featuring a myriad of shops, restaurants, and attractions. Wall Drug invites visitors with promises of free ice water and 5-cent coffee. Wall Drug is the epitome of a roadside attraction, and after almost 100 years, it remains a must-see destination for those passing through this area. 2.5 hours west, we arrive at Devil's Tower National Monument. If you're old like me, you might recognize this from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. 10 years before the National Park Service was created, the Devil's Tower was designated as the first national monument in the United States. Not only is there a paved path around the tower giving you great views, there is a parking lot off the main road that gives you an amazing view of this nearly 1,300-foot butte. That's right, despite its height, it's not considered a mountain, but rather a butte. An unexpected sight after traveling through the plains, the Badlands, and Devil's Tower came as we started day 2 and drove into the Black Hills by way of the Spearfish Scenic Byway. Compared to the vast openness of the prairies and Badlands, the Black Hills are characterized by forested hills and granite peaks towering over this scenic drive. There are several places to stop and take in the beauty and history of this area. We found a 1-mile round-trip hike to a waterfall that feels straight out of Middle-earth. An hour and a half later, we found ourselves at Mount Rushmore. We had friends that had visited Mount Rushmore and told us that it was underwhelming, but that was not our experience. Both my wife and I loved it. It's amazing looking up at these former presidents' faces carved out of a mountain. Still, it's easy to picture the mountain's beauty 100 years ago. I bet it was unprecedented. Continuing down Highway 71, where we didn't see another car for at least 20 minutes at a time, we came to the road that would lead us to Toadstool Geological Park. Be prepared, this is 11 miles on a dirt road, plus another 8 to get out. But that's not a reason to miss this park. Indeed, this was one of my favorite stops, because unlike some of the national parks, which can feel overcrowded, the only people at this park were a couple of campers, which made me desperately want to camp there and look at the stars in that location. I will definitely be back. The 1-mile looping trail gives you great up-close looks at these amazing rock formations that really do look like toadstools. The remoteness and the lack of people at this park really make you feel like you're an explorer. We had a real sense of wonder and discovery as we followed the trail. But then it was time to make it to our final stop on this trip, Scotts Bluff National Monument. We unfortunately arrived after they closed the gates for the road that goes to the top, so we didn't get to see the amazing views from up there. I did manage to make it up there on my second trip with my dad and my son, which came about because as I would send pictures to my dad of the sights we were seeing, he kept saying how jealous he was. So I said, well, I would certainly do this trip again. Let's do it over Labor Day. So we did. We had a blast, and I will post that video in the description below. If you're unfamiliar with Scotts Bluff, it was an important landmark for those traveling the Oregon Trail. Just down the road from here is Chimney Rock, and while it is only a 30-minute drive from Chimney Rock to Scotts Bluff, it would take nearly a day and a half for those traveling the Oregon Trail, many of which were making that trip barefoot. But I will tell you, one thing I learned from playing the Oregon Trail game as a kid is stay away from people named Terry.
That was a terrible joke, Terry.
You mean it was a terrible joke? That just... Well, that's it for this trip. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe so you can see all my future adventures with my friends and my family.